Hello quilting friends, it's Rob Appell, and today we are working on block number 2 of Charisma Horton's epic block of the month pattern. This is going to be incredible. Are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome back to the epic block of the month. This is a wonderful pattern designed by my dear friend Charisma Horton from the Little Pink Barn. Friends, my name is Rob Appell from Stitch in Heaven out in Quitman, Texas. And yes, I'm super blessed to be using my new and newer worlds fabrics from Benartex and this wonderful pattern that Charisma designed exclusively for these fabrics. And we are on month 2. Last month, the first month, we did the corner stars, I think I'm going to call them, and I forgot to point out, folks, it's really convenient on these 12-month programs if you kind of keep your instructions and each month as you go along connected. These fun stars have these really great radiating template pieces we created last month. Those videos are obviously still available right here for you. And this month, we're going to dive in. We're going to make 8 of these awesome stars. And these are also going to kind of fill in up in these corner spaces here. And again, I'm sorry, folks, but the quilt is 96 by 96, so it's bigger than my wall. But it's not bigger than anything we can handle. It's actually a very simple project, and the pattern instructions are super simple. And I'm going to dive into them right now. Okay, so we are. Now, I said I'm going to dive into them right now, but we need to do a little housekeeping and clarification. Everything today is squares, and you do need to purchase the pattern from Charisma or get the kit or however you're doing it. So I'm going to be talking in relative sizes today. So our background fabric will be our largest of the squares. Now there's a couple of tricky pieces. We have 3 sizes that are almost the same, but they're not exactly, okay? So you can see I have one that's about 1/4 inch smaller. Now you're only going to be making one of these of each color, and these are the squares that you see fill into the middle of the stars that are a fun, I almost said contrasting, but they're not. They're almost complementary, but they're not, but they're nice colors that work with the stars. And so at any rate, the second largest square, you have one of each, and those go in the middle of all 8 stars that we're building. The next squares down, you have multiples of each color, and those are the ones we're going to marry to the background first to do the 8 by 8 style flying geese, which we're going to start here in a moment. But remember, you also have another smaller square. Those are going to be used in the while with the white squares. That's how we're going to do the same exact technique twice, but we're going to make big flying geese, and then we're going to make smaller flying geese like that, right? And we'll fill in these squares with our smallest pieces as we speak relatively. So with all of that said, our first series of instructions following in on the pattern will be to take our blue background square and our multiple color squares that we have, our multiple pieces of the same. So I'm going to use my red today. And I would like to point out when I'm working through these videos, I'm really trying to use the fabrics to make the diagram and follow all of your diagram pieces. Yes, you will have 8 different colors and they're all laid out here. As you can see, I also have them on the wall, and I also have those follow-up colors right here for us. But right now, we're going to work off of this diagram as we see it. So I've drawn diagonal lines across the back of all 4 of those red squares. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to connect, making sure that that diagonal line starts on the edge, runs all the way down through, and then all the way down into this one. Some folks like to put a straight pin through each of these squares if you like. What we're going to do, folks, is we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides of these for our first step. So as I come over to the machine, I actually am going to move my edge guide out of the way. And now I'm only really worried about this first square right now. I'm not worried about the lower square because I will adjust as they match up. Just looking at that chalk line on the edge of my presser foot there, making sure nothing hangs up on my edge guide. And now this is where I want to be paying attention. So I'm going to make sure that the diagonals are still good, that my corners are still good. If I need to make any adjustments, I can now. And now as I sew through here, a little pressure down, and boom, I got it. Everything else from here on is going to be secured because I captured it there. But if you want to leave those pins in there, go ahead. Just don't sew over your pins. Okay, like I said, you're doing this for 8 colors, so you may want to be doing this step as you go with all colors at one phase, Henry Ford style, but I'm just going to sew on this side right now as we're going to just follow each step one color family at a time in today's video. We'll be doing a video every month, and it's going to be a super fun program for all of us. I love these block of the months. Okay, so, I should definitely make sure my iron is gonna get hot because I'm gonna need that on my next step. First of all, what I wanna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and use my ruler on top of that chalk line to go ahead and cut through here, and that helps me keep my hands safe and keep myself fairly accurate. And now what we're going to do is we're going to press up and away from the dark big blue center and up into these little red triangles there. I always think these look like raccoon masks when they're being made. I think they're super neat looking. But maybe that's because as I was growing up as a child, I fell in love with animals, raccoons as animals, and I think everything looks like a raccoon mask. I don't know. Those of you who are thinking right now, yes, his spirit animal is a trash panda. No, that's not true, but it could be. Okay, now what we're going to go ahead and do is, with both of these pieces the same, I like to go ahead and rotate so I can see what's going on. Now I'm going to take this, remember, right sides together, folks, right sides together again. And now I have that same diagonal line, and I'm going to use this same diagonal line, but I find that sewing up at the nose or the tip first of our little raccoon mask, and again, I can do this chain piecing style. So I can go through this one here, and then I'm going to grab the next one and prepare it, making sure that diagonal line goes right where it's supposed to. Once all of the first sides or steps are done, then just go ahead and rotate them. And now you're going to be kind of sewing down out of that top edge. So just make sure you don't get going too fast. And once again, we're going to trim these apart. Right on that diagonal line. Do make sure that you can see all of your fabric so you don't accidentally cut something you didn't want to cut. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and press away from that dark fabric, the center fabric. And so now that you do have all 4 of your large flying geese all trimmed out like you have here in the first page, page number 5, just as a reminder, you're making all 8 of these combinations. So this is color 4, 1, 2, and 3 up on the wall, and then I've got the green, the turquoise, the blue, and the purple that I will be making as the flying geese. Okay, now moving on to page 2, we're going to do the exact same thing using these white squares, and you can see I've already drawn diagonals. You're going to need 4 for each and every block that you're making. And now you're going to use the same color fabric square that is on the outside of your large flying geese to make your itty bitty small flying geese, okay? Definitely you are using the same colors here. My pink square will be my matching fill-in color here, just like you see in this diagram, okay? And we still have our little small red squares to get to. But right now, I'm going to use this exact same technique, like I was starting to say, to make these same flying geese. However, this is really cool. If you look in the instructions that came with them, you'll notice that they've also set up for some paper piecing. This can make this much easier for those of you who prefer your paper piecing for the smaller flying geese. I'm going to do mine like I did the large ones, but there is paper piecing paper available within your pattern. And as a reminder, if you've done a digital download, make sure you do your 1-inch square test by putting a ruler over your square to make sure that your paper pieces are the correct size paper pieces. Certainly hope that was helpful. And those little guys or gals or geese will finish at 2 inches, 2 inches by 3.5 that way. And now we're ready to start our construction. This should be very fun and easy from here on out. Back onto page number 6 here, we're just going to build out the whole block here, starting for this colorway with our pink square, and we're going to point our white out just like this, okay? So first, we're just going to take those over, and I'm going to go ahead and sew one onto each side, and I'm going to roll in my 1/4 inch seam guide now so that I keep things as accurate and consistent as possible. And I can also, at the same point, kind of in a chain piecing format, add on a red square to either end also, so that I'm kind of saving thread, kind of saving time. So here, and here, because these will be the top bar and bottom bar that fill in around this center unit. And this way, if you'd like, you can also take a moment at this to press. Let's just press away from center here. And just like I like to do, I may have mentioned this in the first month, I'm going to press towards center on my upper and lower parts so that I give myself the opportunity to nest my seams or use my seams against each other for accuracy. So we're going to realign that there, realign that there, so you can all see how it's starting to come together. Okay, perfect. So now I'm just going to lay that over. Don't get going too fast that you mess up the orientation. And we'll be doing the same with our bigger colors here in just a second. And like we did before, we can go ahead and join these now just to save a little bit of that thread and time. As I come off the machine now, just like before, pressing the center towards center and these little skinnier parts away from center. And then we're just going to realign these, making sure we're forming that star around our center square. And this is what I mean by nesting. Those seams are now heading in opposite directions. You can adjust down to the next one, and always try to get that 1/4 inch there too. As you go through, you can see where the threads cross. That's a nice other little hint maybe you have not learned in the past. Looking for those alignment points. And now I'm just going to press both sides away from center. As you can see by the samples on the wall, that dark blue fabric, the Sputnik fabric, kind of starts to tie all of these together as well, and it fills in the dark blue corners of each side of the quilt here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have this unit like this, and we're going to do the exact same things as I come to bring these together with the same format. And then what you'll end up doing from the last of your piles, you had those extra background color squares, and those are going to fill in right here. So we're just going to now join the 3 unique rows and put it all together as a square. And just like before, kind of in that chain piecing format, right now we're not worrying about color or orientation because everything is the same. So it's very easy for us to go ahead and hustle through this. This would be a great time for you to be making up for lost time if you'd fallen behind a little bit last month. Now, if you're behind on month 2, I'm sorry, folks. I don't want to be sounding like a stinker, but really, I mean, we only had 4 blocks to make last month, and we only have 8 to make this month. But just like before, we will go ahead and take the time to press out these rows before we stitch them back together. And from center, oops, I like to press towards center. Just some of these habits I've learned over time. That way, every project I'm doing, if I'm creating it myself or I'm following patterns and they don't have instructions that tell me, I just kind of have my own philosophy, my own theory this way. And I press to the outside on the outside strips. And then just remember to make sure you're forming that star pattern with all your colors. Okay, folks, and like at the beginning of the video, as you start to press out and finish each of your blocks, I do recommend that you keep them all in color order and all together with your first page of the instructions. It'll just help you stay organized. Maybe you even want to get a pizza box or a nice tote or something to keep these all in, because we're going to be doing one video every month, and today is month 2, so we have 10 more months together working on all of these. And as a quick reminder, not every month will be a lot of construction. Some of them will be building parts and pieces for other months. But right now, I do want you to be making sure you're catching up or staying caught up with 8 of these awesome stars, and you should have the 4 of the corner stars from last month. And I will see you next month with the instructions for month number 3 of this epic Block of the Month by Charisma Horton and Benartex Fabrics and myself, Rob Appell. Thanks again for being here, folks. We'll see you next month.